All praises are due to Allah, and peace and blessings upon Prophet Muhammad. Being that we are on the threshold of the blessed month of Ramadan, we would like to take this opportunity to talk about some issues that are really important and critical concerning the month of Ramadan. And that is because if you want to be successful in doing something, you have to prepare for it. In America, I don't know about here, but in America, they say, he who fails to prepare, he prepares to fail. So if you want to get married, you have to make preparations for your marriage. If the person is going to have a baby, you have to make preparations for the day that you deliver the baby and you bring the baby home, the pram, the crib, the clothes of the baby, the room. And there is a verse, many verses in the Quran, like Allah mentioned, وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَرِبَاطِ الْخَيْرِ. When it comes to fighting in Islam, jihad, not the craziness that we see today, Syria and all of that stuff, but the proper jihad. Allah said, and prepare for them to the best of your ability. So we have to make preparations. You just don't get up and do anything. You prepare yourself for that particular thing. So you have to prepare for salat. By doing what? By making wudu. You hear the adhan, and the adhan gets you in the frame of mind. You want to go to Hajj or Umrah. How many of you have been to Hajj or Umrah? Put your hand up. If you've been to Mecca and Hajj or Umrah, put your hand up. When you go for Hajj and Umrah, you're just not going to go over there. You're going to get the ticket. You're going to get the visa. And then you're going to go and you're going to pay your debts and so forth and so on. So today we want to talk about some issues concerning Ramadan. First thing is I want to share with you guys a historical perspective that is important about Ramadan. It is directly connected to your condition about being deaf, partially deaf, 1/3 deaf. And it is a principle that I really hope you guys can comprehend and carry with you for the rest of your life in the way you exist and the way you deal with other people. How was fasting legislated in Islam? How did fasting come about? Prophet Muhammad, he stayed in Mecca for 13 years. When he reached the age of 40, he became a prophet, a messenger. And he was in Mecca. He stayed in Mecca for 13 years. So at the 13th year, he was 53. And then when he couldn't practice Islam because Mecca was a hostile environment, the Muslims were being killed and persecuted, Allah told him and commanded him and his community move to Al-Medina. So they migrated to Al-Medina, and he stayed in Medina for 10 years. So Mecca 13 years, Al-Medina 10 years. So he was a prophet for 23 years. He died at the age of 63. 63. Now, historically, what happened? For the 13-year period in Mecca, he did not tell the people to pray. He did not tell the companions to give zakat. He did not tell them to fast. He did not tell them to make Hajj or Umrah. All he told them for 13 straight years was to say and understand there's no God worthy of worship except Allah. And don't translate that as there's no God but Allah, because that's a wrong translation. La ilaha illallah means there is no God worthy of worship but Allah. There are many gods. Sun is a god, the moon is a god. The Sikhs, Hindus have 360 something gods. The people of Mecca during the time of Prophet Muhammad, they had a god for every day of the year. Money is a god, power is a god. Some people worship the monkey, the cow, a statue. So don't say there's no God but Allah. There are many gods. Jesus is a god to some people. There's a lot of gods. But he was telling the people, there's no God worthy of worship except Allah. 13 years. That was his call. Consistent. He also told the people, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. A universal principle. He would tell them, be good to your mothers and your kinfolk. Your mothers, your fathers, and your kinfolk. Universal messages. But in terms of rules and regulations, he didn't spend any time in a 13-year period on any of that, although he was at the Kaaba in Mecca. All he told them over and over, there's only one God worthy of worship. One God worthy of worship. One God worthy of worship. That's all he kept telling them. So it baffles me how a Muslim, knowing that, can now, after becoming a Muslim or find himself a Muslim or herself a Muslim, they say Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali is Allah reincarnate. Or a person can say Prophet Muhammad never died. Prophet Muhammad knows the knowledge of the unseen. Prophet Muhammad is created from the light of Allah. Hey, Prophet Muhammad called 13 years telling people, don't say stuff like that. So when he had to go to Medina, his first year in Medina, when he arrived in Medina, he saw the Jews of Medina celebrating. They were having a good time. They were celebrating. He asked the question, why are you celebrating on this day? The Jews said, this is the day that Allah saved Moses from Pharaoh. So we take this day as a day of celebration. So everyone knows Moses and Pharaoh, they had problems. The children of Israel, they were under slavery from Pharaoh. He was a terrible guy. And Allah sent Moses and his brother Aaron to that man, and they called him to believe and to worship. So in the story in the Quran, Allah drowned Pharaoh on that day. So the Jews were celebrating. So when the Prophet saw that, he said, we are closer to Moses than you people. We Muslims, we're closer to Moses than you people, because you changed the Torah. You changed the word that Allah gave to him. You don't follow what he's saying. You're doing all these other things. We Muslims believe in the prophets and the messengers, all of them. Whereas the Christians, they believe in some of the prophets and the messengers, and they reject others. The Jews, they believe in some of the prophets and the messengers, and they reject others. The Christians, they believe in Jesus, and they believe in Moses, and they disbelieve in Muhammad. The Jews, they believe in Moses, and they disbelieve in Jesus and Muhammad. The Muslim, he is not a real Muslim. He is not a Muslim if he doesn't believe in Jesus, Moses, and Muhammad. Not only that, if he doesn't believe that Jesus is up in the heavens with Allah and he's going to come down from the sky at the end of time, if a Muslim doesn't believe that, he's not a Muslim. So the Prophet told the Jews, we're closer to Musa than you are. So he said to the Muslims, hey, Muslims, we're going to fast this day. Those people are partying and having a good time and celebrating. We're going to fast on this day. And he told the whole community, everybody fast. That day was the 10th of Ashura. Ashura. It's the first calendar in the Muslim month, Al-Muharram. Al-Muharram. Now, this is just for your information. You know the Shiite, Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh. You ever see them cutting themselves and hitting themselves with the thing? You ever see that? They hit themselves. They do that on this day because that's the day that Hussein, the Prophet's grandson, was murdered. That really happened on that day. But that's not why the Prophet told them to fast. Hussein had not even been born yet. He wasn't even born yet. When he first came to Medina, the first year, he saw that the Jews were celebrating. He said, why are you doing that? They said, because this is the day, the 10th of this month, the first month in the Muslim calendar. Allah saved Moses on that day. And for this reason, you should fast that day every year. Every year you should fast that day. So that was the first fast in Islam. That was the first one. It was wajib, obligatory. Everybody fasted. That was the first year. And then the second year, the month of Ramadan came. The second year after that, second year after he left Mecca and he went to Medina, it's the second year, Allah reveals some verses in the Quran. And one of those verses says, O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you. It is obligatory upon you, the way it was prescribed upon those who went before you, in the hopes that you would develop God consciousness. That's the second year in Ramadan. So what happened? When this happened, Allah Azza wa Jalla, Allah the Most High, he said the community had to fast. But if a person didn't want to fast, he just didn't want to fast, he didn't have to. But he had to feed one poor person for every day that he didn't fast. But in those verses that Allah revealed, Allah said, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And if you fast, it's better for you. So the verse came down telling the people to fast. Whoever wanted to fast, you fasted. And whoever didn't want to fast, he didn't fast, with no blame on him, no blame. But he had to feed a poor person. So that's the second year. Prophet Muhammad, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, most of them fasted. But some people didn't fast. The third year, after he left Mecca, the third year, some more verses were revealed about Ramadan. And those verses said, Ramadan is the month that the Quran was revealed as a guidance and as a criterion for mankind. So anyone who is at his home, anyone who is in a resident, then he should fast. When this third year came, this ayah, this verse was revealed, everybody had to fast. Everybody. With the exception of people who had excuses. Like the woman who's pregnant. Like the woman who's breastfeeding her baby. Like the person who's traveling in the earth. Like the individual who is sick. And we're going to come to that, inshallah. So those are the three levels, the three gradual ways that fasting became obligatory upon this community. Now, before moving on, I need you really to pay attention to this point. This process of gradualism, this process, it is a process that shows the wisdom of Allah, the mercy of Allah, the mercy of this religion, the ease of this religion. Because change is not made overnight. And that's something everyone has to understand here. The mother has to know that. The father has to know that. The husband, the wife. Every Muslim has to know change doesn't come overnight. 13 years the Prophet was in Mecca calling those people to no God worthy of worship except Allah. 13 years. And why? They had all of those idols. It's hard to detox them from what they were believing. So when you're dealing with people and you're giving dawah, or you're inviting people to Islam, or you're trying to get your child to understand something, you're trying to deal with your wife. You and your wife just came together. She's been doing a particular thing all her life a particular way. You've been doing it all your life a particular way. If a person sees from someone what they don't like, they can't think just like that overnight. They're going to change it. You know, alcohol. The Arabs in Mecca, they used to drink alcohol all day long. So when Islam came, alcohol is a problem. I'm sure everybody here knows up close some of the problems that alcohol has made in our own lives. People, our relatives, neighbors in this society. Islam didn't come and in one day made alcohol impermissible. No. The first verses came down saying, alcohol is a problem. The next verse came down saying, don't drink alcohol before the prayer. The last verse came down and said, no more alcohol. Aisha, the Prophet's wife Aisha, she said, if Allah had made alcohol impermissible right away, then the Arabs would not embrace Islam. You know, slavery during that time. Slavery was bad. It was nasty. It was bad. Prophet Muhammad didn't come and just say, stop slavery. He didn't do that. Because the economical system of that place was built on slavery. So Islam came and gradually said, don't hit your slaves. Don't overwork your slaves. If you make a mistake and you break your fast, or you do this, or you kill someone, then free a slave. The best of you is the one who frees a slave. And gradually Islam started to make people understand you have to get away from this, get away from that. So our religion is a religion that takes into consideration people's situation. You guys, as you learn your religion and things become unfolded before you, do it in a gradual way. Don't be of those people who want everything taken care of today, and that's it, because it doesn't work like that. So those are the three levels of how fasting was. Is that understood? Okay, now we move on to the next point. Fasting. What is fasting? There are two issues that we have to mention concerning fasting. The Quran was revealed in the Arabic language, and that's some wisdom. The Arabic language is the most precise language. It is the most articulate language. When you know Arabic and you speak Arabic, you understand exactly what the person is saying and what is meant. Whereas other languages, without any exception, other languages, you don't always understand exactly what is he talking about. For an example, I'll give you an example. I have my wife who's here, and if you can imagine, my wife is the blood biological sister of the girl next to her. So I'm married to my wife, and this brother here is married to my wife's sister who's sitting next to her. So I'm married to my wife, and he's married to my wife's sister. I say to Vicky, you know this guy? This is my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law. Vicky doesn't know. Is he married to my sister? Am I married to his sister? Are we married to sisters? It's not known. You have to express that. You have to let him know. In Arabic, all of that is detailed. When I say to Vicky, I say, this is my ideal, an Arabic word that means him and I are married to two sisters. Another example like that is the Urdu language, Pakistani language, like your mother's brother. It's called the ammu. So if you say my uncle, in Arabic, you know exactly what uncle I'm talking about. My mother's brother is my khal. My father's brother is my father's brother is my ammu. So Arabic is like that. I tell you in Arabic, meet me tomorrow morning. Meet me tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, what does that mean? In English, you have to get out of me exactly when. Exactly when. Arabic is not like that. Arabic give you words. Meet me right before the sun comes up. There's a word for that. Meet me while the sun is coming up. Meet me as soon as the sun comes up. Meet me when the sun is between noon and when it first came up. All of those details. Arabic language is like that. And I'm just giving you these examples so that you can appreciate why Allah chose this language. So what is fasting? Fasting in the Arabic language, linguistically, fasting means to hold back, to refrain. That's what it means linguistically. Like right now, everybody here is fasting because we're refraining from things. In the verse of the Quran, in the story of Maryam, Jesus' mother Mary, when the angel came to Mary to tell Mary, you're going to have a baby, a miraculous baby. She said in the Quran, Inni nadartu lirrahmani soma, falan ukallim al-yawm insiya. She said, I take an oath with Allah that I'm going to fast today and I won't talk to any human being. And she used the word fast in Arabic, fast. What does she mean? She's not going to eat and drink? No. It meant I'm going to refrain from speaking to anybody. I'm going to refrain from speaking to anybody. That's the linguistic meaning of fasting. But fasting has a religious meaning, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The religious meaning of fasting, it consists of three things. Number one, it consists of refraining a specific particular refraining, meaning you're going to have an intention, your intention, what they call in Arabic, the niyyah, your intention. It is important in the month of Ramadan that every night before you go to bed, before tomorrow, that you make an intention in your heart that I'm going to fast tomorrow. Because there's a hadith that the Prophet said, the person who doesn't make his intention in the night, he doesn't have a fast. And the reason why the intention is important is because some people don't eat at all, and they don't eat because they're on a diet. That's not fasting. Another person won't eat because he's a political prisoner. So he goes on a hunger strike. So he wants to let the prison know, the government know, I don't like what you're doing. So he stops eating altogether. He doesn't get rewarded for that because that's not the fast. It's not the correct intention. One person, he's really poor. He doesn't have any food. So his circumstances necessitates and dictates he can't eat. He's not fasting. So the person has to have the intention. That's the first component. The second component is he's going to refrain from specific things. He's not going to refrain from everything. He's going to fast and not sleep? No. Not talk? No. Not sit down? Not work? No. He's going to refrain from specific things. He's going to refrain from eating food, drinking, having sexual relationships with his partner. If the lady has a period, she's going to refrain from fast. She's going to refrain. She's not going to fast at that time. Also refraining, it also means refraining from vain speech and from behaving ignorantly. Prophet Muhammad said in an authentic hadith, he said, fasting is not to abandon your food and your drink, but fasting is to abandon vain speech and acting ignorantly. He said in another hadith, it may be that a person fasts, but he doesn't get any benefit out of his fast except he makes himself hungry and thirsty. Because he's fasting in the month of Ramadan, but he's still arguing with people. He's fasting in the month of Ramadan, he's still very disrespectful to his mother and his father. Three people, the Prophet said, their salat, when they pray, their salat won't go beyond their neck. They pray, but Allah doesn't accept their salat. One person, someone who is disrespectful to his mother and his father. He's fasting, but he's disrespectful to his mother. He's not fasting, he doesn't understand. Another person, he said, is the woman who's disrespectful towards her husband. I think I told you before of that man who came into the Prophet's masjid and he prayed 2 rakat, very quickly, without discipline. He just prayed very quickly. He went to the Prophet and said, Salaam alaikum. Prophet Muhammad said, go back and pray because you didn't pray. Because he was going real quick. So many people, they actually pray, but that's not the prayer that Allah wants. It's not accepted. So you're going to refrain from all of those things. Now, this is another very important thing about fasting. You're going to refrain. The Prophet said, if anyone vomits, he spits up, he vomits involuntarily, it just came out. He was sick and he vomited while he's fasting. He said he doesn't have to make the day up. But if anyone forces himself to vomit, he has to make the day up. So you can't vomit, make yourself vomit in the month of Ramadan. Prophet Muhammad, he talked about that specifically. Don't do that. Now we're going to move on. The third component and the final one is that we're going to fast. We're going to refrain. Fasting is refraining. A special refraining with the intention. Number 2, we're going to refrain from specific things. Not everything. You don't have to refrain from smelling perfume. Some people will teach you can't smell perfume in Ramadan. Come on, where do you get that from? If you go into a place and you smell bukhur, incense, they say, oh, you can't smell incense. Where did you get that from? You have to bring the proof. If someone tells us you can't do this, you can't do that, all you have to do is say, where's the proof? Where's that at? Where's it at? Where's the verse? Where's the hadith that says that? So we refrain from things that were mentioned in the religion. And the last component, number 3, you refrain from these things from a certain period of time. From the time that the sun comes up to the time that the sun goes down. So you don't refrain from those things after the sun goes down. Now you can eat and drink and be with your wife, and you can do those other things that fasting may prohibit it. Now we move to the next point. What is the ruling of fasting? What's the ruling of fasting? Fasting is one of the most important aspects of Islam. Islam has 5 pillars, and fasting is one of them. So any structure is going to be as strong as its foundation. So if you see this chair right now, this table right now, it has 4 pillars, 4 legs. This table is going to be as strong as the legs are. If I knock this leg off, salat, it's a problem. That house, this table is a problem. I knock 2 off, salat, in fact, trouble. You in trouble. So fasting is one of the pillars of Islam. A person's Islam is suspect. A big question mark is over his head whether or not he's even a Muslim, because it's one of the main aspects of the religion. So it is an obligation, not just an obligation, but one of the most serious obligations in Islam. Who is fasting obligatory upon? Who has to fast? Does everyone have to fast? No, not everyone. Now, I really need you guys to pay attention right now. Come on, guys. Am I going too quick? Am I going too slow? Or too fast? Is she interpreting too slow or too fast? This is really important right now, guys. Important. Who has to fast? 5 types of people have to fast. The person who is a Muslim and they are mature and they have their intellect, aqil, and they have the ability. And number 5, they are resident. They're in their city, where their house is, where their family is. Those 5 people have to fast. Those 5 descriptions. A Muslim who is mature and he also has his intellect. Number 4, he is capable, physically capable, mentally capable. And number 5, he's a resident. I think Muslim is clear. That's clear. Allah doesn't accept from non-Muslims their worship. Because if you commit shirk, if you commit polytheism, if you combine with Allah anything in worship, as a Muslim or non-Muslim, it renders your deeds null and void. I don't have time to go into that, but the Muslim is the one that Allah is telling to fast. The one who is baligh, he's mature. Now this is important. How do we know someone is mature? How old are you, son? 9. Stand up. Come here. Hurry up, man. Go stand over there real quick. All right. This little kid right here. Is he mature? Is he not mature? We're going to find that out. What does it mean to be mature? Okay, good job, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. You made the class very good, man. Thanks a lot. Mature. Mature means 3 descriptions in the boy and 4 in the girl. She has one added one. She has the same 3 as the boy, but she has one more to determine, is the boy or girl mature? Your sister, your brother, your cousin, your nephew, your niece, those people who are wearing hijab, you have to pay attention to this. The mother, the father. It's not only for fasting, it's also for who we should allow to sit amongst the ladies when they come to our house. You see my wife, how she's dressed. My wife is not better than anybody. Allah knows best. Allah knows best. But she dressed a particular way. So in my house, no man is going to go inside where the women are to shake their hands and to sit with them and to drink tea, unless he was my wife's uncle, my wife's son, unless he was my wife's grandfather, specific people. So now, the boy, the girl who has to fast. Maturity, 3 descriptions of the boy. Number 4, 1 more in the girl. Number 1, first description that determines maturity. First one. If that child has pubic hairs and he's 10, 11, 12, he's mature. If he has pubic hairs, she has pubic hairs, that means they're mature. Once that happens, you have to start telling them you must fast. You have to start treating them not as an adult, but as someone who's growing. That's one thing. Another thing, let's say they don't have pubic hairs. They don't have pubic hairs. Okay, once they reach the age of 15, if they don't have pubic hairs, when they reach the age of 15, they have to fast. They're mature. They're mature. And we know that because one time, Prophet Muhammad was going to go out to have a war battle with some of the non-Muslims. And one of his companions who was 14 came. He said, I want to go. Prophet Muhammad said, how old are you? He said, 14. He said, no, you can't go. You're too young. And then the next following year, he was about to go out. A boy came, that same boy. He saw he was 15, a year older. The Prophet said, you can go with us. So 15, if they don't have pubic hair, 15, they're mature. That's in the boy and the girl. Number 3, for both of them. If that boy or that girl has a dream, what they call a nocturnal dream, they have a dream, a wet dream, boy or the girl, if either one of them has that, they're lesser than 15, then they're mature. Number 4 for the girl, if her period comes. She could be 12, 13, 14. If her period comes, she's mature. She should wear jilbab, hijab. She should fast. So those are the 5 people who should fast. The Muslim who is mature, who has his intellect. As for the Muslim who doesn't have his intellect, he's majnoon, they call it in Arabic. Mentally challenged. He's majnoon, he's crazy. That person doesn't have to fast. He doesn't have to fast. Prophet Muhammad said, the pen of responsibility has been lifted off of 3 people. The pen of responsibility has been lifted off of the person who's sleeping until he wakes up. It's been lifted off of the person who is young until he becomes mature. He's not responsible. It's been lifted apart off of the one who is insane until his sanity comes back. So a person who's insane, he's excused in Islam. If he makes a mistake, if he doesn't pray, if he does something that he accidentally, he pushed a flower. There's a flower on the window pane. He pushed it over and it went and hit someone, a pedestrian on the head, and that person died. He's excused because he's not there. His sanity is compromised. So he doesn't have to fast. Number 4, the person who has the ability. The person has the ability. He has good health. Fasting is not going to hurt him. It's not going to harm him. It's no problem. As for the one who has cancer, as for the individual who is really, really sick, a person who takes medicine and he can't stop that medicine. He has some serious disease. He doesn't have to fast. That individual, he just feeds a poor person for each day. And number 5, the person who is a resident. If you travel, you don't have to fast. If you travel, you don't have to fast. Now we want to talk about the issue of the sickness of the person who doesn't have to fast. The sickness for the person who doesn't have to fast, it is the person who has an ongoing illness. He's just sick. He has extreme arthritis. That individual, they take medicine, so he doesn't have to fast. Or it's the individual who he may have the ability to fast, but if he fasts, his problem is going to be exasperated. Fasting is going to cause his sickness to trigger off something. He's going to go in a coma. You know those people who I think it's called, diabetes. The diabetic. Maybe the diabetic can take a shot of insulin early in the morning before the sun comes up. And he can possibly last for maybe 2, 3, 4 days. When the sun goes down, he takes his injection and he eats sweets and he's okay for 3 or 4 days. But then after the 4th or 5th day, he goes into a coma. That person doesn't have to fast. If fasting is going to exasperate your problem, it's going to cause your problem to get bigger. Another person who doesn't have to fast is a person whose job is extremely, extremely tough. I mean, extremely difficult. Like in the Arab world, for an example, like in Iraq, they have those oil fields. An oil field, a refinery, it blows up. Now, this guy's job is to go put that fire out. He has to deal with the heat of the desert, and he has to deal with the heat of the refinery, and that's some special fire right there. And he has to fast? No way, Jose. No way, Jose. Islam doesn't want that. Allah said in the Quran, "La taqtulu anfusakum, inna Allah kana bikum rahima." Don't kill yourselves. Allah is merciful to you. Allah said in the Quran, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ مِنَ التَّهْلُكَةِ. Don't destroy yourselves with your own hands. So someone who has a real serious job, really, really difficult, he doesn't have to fast, but he has to make that day up later at some point. He has to make that day up later. Now, what are some of the things that were said about people who don't fast? What are some of the problems for the person who doesn't fast? First thing that I want to mention to you guys is the danger of the weak hadith. The weak hadith, for my translator, my interpreter, Kafi, the hadith are the statements of Prophet Muhammad. That's the hadith. Sometimes people attribute to Prophet Muhammad words that he never said. And that is done because people They don't study, so they just hear things and they repeat it. Prophet Muhammad used to warn his companions, and he used to say, lying on me is not like lying on anyone else. So if anyone lies on me and says what I didn't say, you will get your place in the hellfire. And this is what happened to the Jews and the Christians. The Christians are telling us, Jesus said this, Jesus said that. I am the light, I am the way to the Father. I'm the Son of God. Just ain't say that stuff. People are making things up. The Jews, they made things up. They said that they are Allah's special people. So they can do anything they want to do to Palestinians. They can justify anything. They said that, okay, eating pork is not permissible for us, but we can sell it to non-Jews. I mean, they make stuff up. Muslims do the same thing. We make up hadith that are not true. We say things that the Prophet said that are not true. Like the hadith, Allah created the world for me. Allah didn't create the world for Prophet Muhammad. Allah created mankind and he created the jinn, so that they would worship Allah. One of the famous statements that they say that Prophet Muhammad said, out of all of the things that are permissible, halal, out of all of the things that are permissible, the most hated permissible thing is divorce. Prophet Muhammad never said that. You know, when you have a baby, if a person has an infant, Muslim has an infant, they'll take the baby, they'll say the call of prayer in the right ear, and then the establishment of the prayer in the left ear. And they say, Prophet Muhammad said that. Prophet Muhammad never said that. There are many, many, many weak statements that are attributed to Prophet Muhammad that are not true. So just imagine, guys, just imagine, I'm your teacher, I'm your sheikh, you love me, I love you, you have a good opinion about me, I have a good opinion, I'm your leader, your spiritual leader. So I come up and I say, okay, Prophet Muhammad said, all black people are better than everybody else. What would stop me from saying that? And what would stop this one from saying, Prophet Muhammad said Pakistani is better than everybody else? And then that one over there, he comes and said, Prophet Muhammad said, people come from Mirpur better than everybody else, until we keep going and we develop a new religion. And that's why everybody has to make it his business, guys. You have to make it your business. Expose yourselves to the knowledge of Islam, like the two books of hadith, Bukhari and Muslim. Bukhari and Muslim, the two books of hadith. Bukhari and Muslim. Bukhari and Muslim. Because those two books of hadith, were keen to put in what the Prophet really said. Anyway, what's been said that is not authentic, and I'm bringing this to your attention because I don't want you to become of those people who despair from the mercy of Allah. That hadith said, anyone who broke his fast without a legitimate excuse, his fast will never be accepted, even if he fasted for the rest of his life. That hadith is not true. You always read that hadith in books that are talking about Ramadan and talking about the evil of breaking your fast. That's not true. The Prophet never said that. To break your fast in the month of Ramadan is a big problem. It's a problem. One man, he had sexual relationships with his wife in the month of Ramadan. He came to Prophet Muhammad and he said, oh, Prophet Muhammad, I have destroyed myself. And he was distraught and he was sad. Prophet Muhammad said, what's the matter? What happened? He said, I had relations with my wife in the daytime during Ramadan. Prophet Muhammad asked him about what Allah revealed. He said, can you fast 2 months consecutively? The man said, no, I'm old. I can't do that. He said, first, can you free a slave? He said, no, I'm poor. I don't have money to free a slave. He said, can you fast 2 months consecutively? He said, no, I can't fast. I'm old. He said, can you feed 60 people for 2 months? Can you feed 60 poor people? He said, no. Prophet Muhammad said, go sit over there. Sit over there. Just relax, sit over there. He got on with his day. Some other Muslim came and gave sadaqah, alms, A-L-M-S. He gave alms, charity. He gave food enough for 60 people. So the Prophet took that food and said, hey, you come here, you. Take this food and distribute it to 60 people for the mistake that you made. He said, oh, Messenger of Allah, oh, Prophet Muhammad, me and my family are more in need of this food than anybody else. The Prophet said, okay, you can have it. Look at the mercy of Prophet Muhammad. He doesn't close the door in the face of people and make them despair when they make mistakes. A person, he drinks khamr, he drinks intoxicant, he smoked weed. That person, he made fornication. An individual broke the day of Ramadan. He did some big sin. Allah doesn't close the door of mercy. He doesn't close the door of forgiveness. So we shouldn't be those people who are like that. We see someone who make a mistake and we'll say to him, Allah will never forgive you. You're going to go into hell. Don't talk to people like that. So if a person breaks his fast in the month of Ramadan, the penalty is you have to free a slave. If you can't free a slave, you have to fast 2 months consecutively. If you can't do that, you have to feed 60 people for breaking that one day. That's authentic. That's in the Quran. Another authentic hadith is that Prophet Muhammad said he was sleeping, and while he was sleeping, 2 angels came to him. And they took him in his dream. He said he came to a group of people who were hanging upside down by their heels. And there were hooks in their heels, their Achilles tendon, the skin behind your foot. And they were hanging upside down. And they had hooks in their mouths, and their mouths were bleeding. He became afraid and said, who are those people? And when did they eat? They ate before the sunset. So those people were actually fasting. They started to fast, but at some point during the day, they broke their fast. And that's their punishment. What do you think is the punishment of the guy who doesn't fast outright? Straight up and down, like 6 o'clock, he doesn't fast at all. That guy in this hadith was fasting. But maybe he said, oh man, it's 18 hours we fasting now in June and July, 18 hours. So when it gets to about 7 o'clock, 7:30, he goes in the closet somewhere by himself and he drinks some water. Or he has relationships with his family. I mean, he went all morning. He was in the morning time. He went all day. And then Shaitan overtook him with his desires. And then he had a relationship with his wife. And it was 2 hours before the break fast. 3 hours before the break fast. So those people were actually fasting. So what do you think is the case of the people who don't fast at all? Okay, we're going to stop right here because there's so much other things to say. And we don't want to overwhelm you guys. And we don't want to overburden you. To be perfectly honest with you, talks like this, I prefer that the students write so that they can have that information. Because if you're just listening or just paying attention, a lot of the information, it will leave you. But because of the special needs of this community, I got to take it easy. And I understand that I have to take it easy. So it wouldn't be in the best interest of you guys that we overwhelm you and bombard you with a lot of information. I think we've taken enough right now. I just want to ask a quick question. Okay? 5 people have to fast. Who knows all 5 that I mentioned? Who are the 5? What are the 5 descriptions of the people who have to fast? Yes, sister.
A Muslim?
Yes.
Mature?
Good job.
Ability?
Ability.
To have a residence?
A resident. One more.
For people that live within the house, that's a residence. And there's one more. I can't think of it.
Allah. Good job. Good job. Good job. Anybody know the one more?
Intellect.
The intellect. So in the order that I gave, good job, good job. You're one of my best students. You right there, mashallah. Good job. Who are they? Number 1, you have to be a Muslim. Number 2, you have to be mature. Number 3, you have to have your intellect, sanity. Number 4, you have to have the ability. Number 5, you have to be a resident. Now, 3 things determine maturity in the boy and 4 things in the girl. 3 in the boy, 4 in the girl. Someone tell me, what are those 3 descriptions in the boy And the girl, the fourth one, that determines a person's maturity. Someone help me out with that one. Allah, Allah, Allah. Hakeem, that soda is cold, man. You got any ice on the premises?
Yeah, I got.
You got ice here?
I got a cold one in the fridge upstairs.
Hey, man, can you go get me that? I was going to say, can you give me that cigarette? Can you go give me that soda, man? Can a little man go get it?
I'll go it.
One of the men's for the woman, they have to have body hair.
Hey, man, don't start with the woman. Just give me the 3 for the boy and the girl, and then the woman has 1 extra one. 3 for the boy and the girl, and then the woman has 1 extra one.
He was relaying the story about not being allowed to go to war at 14, having to wait until he was 15.
Nah. My sister.
Come in. Slightly.
So you have to check if they've got body hair.
Not body hair. If they have hair on their arms right here, does that mean that they're bodic? They got hair on their head? You mean to tell me the little boy and the girl have to be like that?
Sorry, pubic hair.
Okay. Pubic hair.
To be responsible.
Okay, let me tell you. Number 1, if they have pubic hair under the arms or hair around the privates. Number 2, if they reach the age of 15, they may be 12, 13, but if they have that pubic hair, they're mature. But if they don't have that pubic hair, when they reach the age of 15. Number 3, when they go to sleep, if they have a nocturnal dream, if they have a dream that comes from desires, either one of them. And we're only mentioning this not to make things awkward or to make anybody embarrassed. But if we don't mention things like this, how can we learn our religion? This is one of the problems with cultural Islam. Cultural Islam is a problem. Number 4, the girl, when she has her period. If she has a period and she's 11, 12, 13, then she is mature. She should put hijab on. She should pray. She should fast in the month of Ramadan and stuff like that. Okay, guys, take a break right now. Inshallah, take a break right now. And after the break, we'll continue the second half. Bi-idhnillahi.